I call this meeting to order for the Iroquois Central School District Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, February 15th. And can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? I probably should say executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel.
Personnel.
Yeah, it's a requirement to say that. There you go.
Okay.
All right. So we're moving into executive session. We'll be back at 7 for our meeting. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone, welcome to all of those who have come to observe the meeting of the Iroquois Central School District's Board of Education meeting. There are two periods of recognition of guests listed on the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items. The second is for topics not on the agenda. Speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personnel complaints against any individual associated with the school system. Please address these concerns to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, please fill out the appropriate form and turn it into our district clerk as per policy 1514. Public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents is limited to 15 minutes total unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes to address the board. Additionally, no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not engage in conversation and dialogue with you this evening. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Please rest assured, however, that we are listening carefully and take seriously what you do have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing ideas and opinions, but do not engage in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share your concerns and your celebrations this evening. So please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and the recording will be posted on the Iroquois website. Thank you. And with that, we go to our Pledge of Allegiance, and we have students from Marilla Primary here to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now you get to come up and take a picture for your parents. Stand in front of me because I'm a little taller. Okay. There you go. Good? Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love it. Thank you, children. That brings us to item 5, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jacobs to introduce our middle school student report.
Good evening. Tonight, each time I come to the board, I try to bring a different grade level, and we're at 6th grade, and these were chosen by their teachers. And I have Ariana, Rose, and PJ. And they're going to tell you a little bit about what's going on at our middle school.
Hello, I am Rose Donato, a 6th grader at Iroquois Middle School. I would like to talk about 2 things at school that we do that is amazing. A 6th grade field trip and a middle school drama club. The IMS Drama Club is run by 4 adults who guide through the process of putting on a show. So many kids would like to join, but when casting actors, adults look for the total package. They should fit into the character, be confident, and be able to sing well and act well. For crew, kids fill out a form which is looked through. Once everybody is placed in cast or crew, the show begins to form. Adults and volunteers come to school on Saturdays and start to build the sets while the actors are learning the script. The advisors encourage us to put on our best on stage. As for this year, we put on Frozen Junior on the middle school stage. The advisors rely on kids and volunteers to help put on the show. Now, on to another subject, the 6th grade field trip. For 6th graders, we go to the Bisons game. The annual Bisons game is scheduled this year for Thursday, June 1st against St. Paul at 11:05 a.m. Each year, there is a theme for the game. This year, the theme is STEM and how the Bisons and their players use science, technology, engineering, and math every day at the ballpark. It is the perfect combination of learning and fun. Now introducing one of my classmates, PJ Tonsline.
Hi, I'm PJ Tonsline, and I'm here to talk about how great our school is. We do a bunch of fun things at school, but these are some of my favorite things. In the second quarter, we had a day of activities called Community Day. In the beginning, the whole school went to the auditorium for a game of Family Feud. After the 5th graders went, the 6th graders faced between teams Goodall and Team Galileo. After that, we left the auditorium and went to decorate fabric that would later be sewn into a blanket. We were served hot chocolate, and it was a great way to socialize with friends. Later, we did a door decorating contest. Everyone in my class collaborated and helped out with the door. Although we didn't win, we had a lot of fun. Lastly, we went back to the auditorium and was given a speech about social media safety, and then ended an exciting, fun-filled day. Another fun thing we do at school is SGB. I'm a representative in SGB, and I would know that it's really fun. We do some things like Teacher Appreciation Day and Guess the Weight of the Pumpkin at Halloween time, but my favorite thing we do are candygram sales. We get to work some days during lunch and sell things called candygrams. You buy a slip of paper and you write who you want it to be given to, and then we put a candy cane or a lollipop in it and give it to that person. And it is always great when you see somebody smile when they get one. Thank you for listening to me today, and I hope you can now see just how great and fun our school is. Now I'd like to introduce my friend Ariana Natello.
Hi, my name is Ariana Natello, and I'm going to be talking about 2 things in the Iroquois Middle School. I look forward to the spring fling because it has lots of games and is super fun. I went last year. The date of it is June 2nd, 2023, and the time is 5 to 8. Everyone in the middle school is welcome. There is outdoor games, music, and dancing, and lots of fun activities. There is food like pizza, drinks, popcorn, and ice cream. Some activities include Mr. Esslinger and the dunk tank. Last year, there was a wheel to win a prize, and you could also walk on the track. Kindness Day on February 16th is about doing activities in almost every class. Some activities include reading, writing nice things about people, slipping a note into a book, and writing thank you notes to your primary teachers. If you went to a different school, you could still send the note to a teacher from a different school. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose, PJ, and Ariana. It was wonderful to hear what's going on in the 6th grade area of the middle school. And I think you're incredibly brave to get up and speak in front of us. I never would have done that at your age, but I was part of a middle school musical. That was fun. So thank you. Yes, love that. Okay. Thank you. And that brings us to item number 6, our board discussion and news worth sharing. So the first thing on the agenda is our ambassador reports. Does anybody have anything to report from their school? Or
I have something to report from ITAC.
Okay.
It's quite lengthy, but I told Allie I would discuss it. So they're in the process of applying for a competitive grant through the DFC CDC. ITAC is currently funded by DFC funds. We're in our 5th year of funding. They're about to reapply for a competitive grant opportunity to fund years 6 through 10. The grant's due April 11th, and we're also applying for a grant through SAMHSA called the STOP Act. Sober Truth on Preventing Underage Drinking. This is a supplemental grant that is valued at $60,000 per year for 4 years. This grant application is due March 3rd, and we hope to be a success on both fronts. Next week during the winter break, they're sponsoring a free ice skating event for the community in East Aurora on Tuesday, February 21st from 10 to 12. Skate rentals free with a donation of toiletry items to our collaborators, the ROC and the Hearts for the Homeless. And she sent me a bunch of attachments about all this information. Maybe we could forward it to the staff as well,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I could forward that to you. They're also working with Jamie Coleman at the Family Support Center at the East Aurora Middle School to develop a relationship with their school district in order to increase our reach in the 14052 zip code. We continue to have discussions with their administration to move this forward. Last point. They sent a group of coalition members and youth ambassadors to a national leadership forum near Washington, D.C. on January 30th to February 2nd. 13 people in total attended with access to training, workshops, informational sessions, networking, and exhibitors along with 4,000 other people from across the country. The youth ambassadors that attended were, and excuse me if I mess up these names, but didn't say that in there, Cordiella Thompson, Marin Schwab, Tiana Schwabel, James Golner, James Grayton, Natalie Asslinger, all juniors, and Grace Mendelera, a sophomore. The adults that attended were ITAC's 2 key personnel, Allie and Sarah, ITAC youth coaches, John Bennett, also an Iroquois Middle School social worker, and Caitlin Ernst, ITAC president Mark Sterlace, and middle school principal Ross Esslinger. They returned inspired by everything we learned and ready to implement new ideas in our community. And there's 2 newspaper articles in the Elmer Review that cover their activities while they were there. So I'll forward that on.
And actually, they can forward the stuff. They have district email, so they can forward all the
Okay.
information on. I think a lot of their meetings, they already do forward out to the entire
Okay.
staff.
Yeah, I'll remind them to do that then. That's it for my tech.
Any other ambassador report kind of things? I did have the opportunity to go see Frozen Junior. It was fantastic. That was something that happened in the middle school. I feel like our middle school students.
They were already gone. It was though. I was
They-
there too at the
Sure.
same night
Yeah.
you were there and Heather was there and
They,
that's all I saw that night.
their report pretty much covers the middle school for Bob and I, but I did get to see the musical and it was fantastic. I loved it.
I did too.
That brings us then to ECASB updates. Anybody have anything that they want to talk about? I'm still processing today.
Yeah, I'm still processing as well. So Jane, Jim and I just returned from Albany for Lobby Day, and it was my first time there in the Capitol building, and my head is still spinning on everything that we learned about today. There was about, 20 people from Erie
15.
County? 15 people from Erie County that attended, including Dave Lowry. The experience was wonderful. I was mostly in listening mode, but it was a really good networking event. And we got to go, we got a tour of the Capitol building too. So we just returned minutes before this meeting.
A personal tour by one of our local legislators. Gave us a tour and let us walk on the floor. It was incredible.
Yeah.
We had lots of really good conversation about a lot of the different issues that we've been talking about at ECASB legislative meetings and at the legislative breakfast. There was, want to jump in, Jim?
I mean, no, it was interesting to see how it worked. And the big issues that kept coming up was the Child Victim Act, electric buses, reimbursement for CTE. Those were the ones that just kept rolling up over and over. And
Staff shortages. That was another,
staff shortages.
yeah.
kind of that's a little bit of the CTE going the other way.
Yeah.
But basically, there's a takeaway was that, in their own ways, that we agree these are problems, but we don't have any better answers mess right now, so when it gets really bad, we'll think about fixing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did get a message of when it turns into a crisis, we'll jump in and help you out, which was not.
It is, I mean, after we put together the report, that was the underlying.
Yeah.
We kind of hear you, we agree, but it gets really, really bad. We'll figure it out then.
And for the electronic buses, Eric from Akron
Yes.
is suggesting it be a pilot program, and maybe picking like 6 to 10 school districts in New York State to see how it would work out, because effective next year, we have to start buying
Buying buses.
buses. Oh, that's what they said during the meeting, but, okay.
But
They-
next year, would be the last.
I think he was talking about in the planning and budget process, you know, like this is the last year we can really be planning to buy
Yeah.
a diesel bus or a gas bus, that, you know, the infrastructure and whatnot, you're gonna have to start figuring out. If you're gonna be buying a bus in 2027, you're gonna have to figure out the infrastructure,
Yeah.
the charging station, a lot of districts would actually end up having to put in new transformers in order to be able to handle the power load. It was really interesting. I think most of the legislators that we spoke to about it were in agreement that something about the timeline has to change, that there are going to be issues. They recognize that there's going to be issues. One even went as far as saying the SED is kind of saying, geez, why did this land in our lap? So people aren't happy with it, and it sounds like as these problems continue to pile on and the questions keep coming, they're seeing some of the issues that have to be addressed before they can implement it, and that the timeline is going to have to change.
They went even as far to say, and like Lakeshore said, it was things that they never even thought of. It's like, so every single first responder in our area would need to be trained how to deal with them. You know, so so what they're saying is there's so many things that weren't thought of that are necessary to make this work, that there's just no way it can happen anywhere close to the timeline.
And
that they're
they all
having.
recognize it.
And that's why they
They're all on
thought-
the floor, like, or
Yeah.
they're all in Albany going,
And even the bus companies who had the most to gain from this, that manufacture the buses, say there's no way we could keep up with the demand or manufacture that number of buses that you would need each year.
Yeah.
There's no way they could do it, so.
yeah, they are recognizing that.
And with the pilot program, they thought it would be a good idea to get like the training materials together for the drivers, the mechanics, and
I mean, just
understanding it a little bit better about what we're getting into.
just telling them the story of the bus that came to the NISBA convention in October, it taking 2 days to get there because it had to stop in Poughkeepsie to get charged, made the legislators just kind of shake their head and laugh. So they know that there's an issue there. So, yeah.
New York, yeah, in the hills.
So it was a really interesting day. I really felt like we made some headway in forming some relationships with some legislators, maybe not all of them, but it was a really great experience, and I would encourage, we should all go next year. Okay, anything else from the CASB? Trying to think. We had our legislative breakfast, that was after our last meeting, right? And go ahead.
Yeah, I was really so excited to see all the people that came and introduced themselves to us, and how concerned they were about what the schools are doing. I thought it was fantastic. I'm so happy I went to that. Thank you for changing the time. But it was just outstanding. I don't think it could have been better. You did a great job hosting it. It was just really beautifully laid out. Everybody that needed to be there was there. The speeches that were made were right on target, seemed very helpful, and concerned about our schools. It was excellent.
I just want to say that if I had known that Kathy Hochul was going to be in town that weekend, I would have invited her too.
And even the advocacy meeting that happened before the breakfast and learning how, or was it during the breakfast? Learning about how the bill,
Becomes a law.
because it becomes a law, was very interesting.
Did anybody, was there a delegate meeting?
Yes, there was.
Is there anything?
Yeah, nothing really notable.
And there was a,
People were asking about, the mascot, because that was unique to our district. And then we were talking to the city of Tonawanda, who also has some challenges there.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So, but I'm sure Doug will provide an update here shortly on that topic.
What little there is.
Yep.
okay, all right. Anything else there? All right, roundtable dates. We had our faculty roundtables this afternoon. Our student roundtables are tomorrow. I know I'm going. Heather, you're
Yeah.
going? Is anybody else going?
I am.
Yes.
But you won't be in town.
He won't be in town anymore,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Anybody? Okay, well then, we'll cover the kids tomorrow. And then our community roundtable is in March?
March 15th at 5 PM in the middle school. March 15th?
Is that right before a board
Should be
meeting?
right before a
Yeah.
board meeting.
Okay.
And the public promised me people are going to be there. Someone's going to come.
Cindy's board
I
meeting.
think I could make that one. 5 o'clock, yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And then that brings us to our transportation roundtable.
Yes, we had that. There was about 20 people there, drivers. Got a chance to talk to the mechanics. It's good to hear their feedback on challenges the drivers are having. They were also asking about the electronic buses. It seems that there's some shortage of drivers possibly, and some assistance that they're going to need to ensure that Eric and Danny and Lynn are not driving, and nobody, the mechanics are manning the bus, the phones at the bus garage. So that was a concern. They had a great idea at the conference that we just came from, to have maybe, say, like a Pat Gallivan coming to the bus garage and meeting with the mechanics and seeing our building and talking to the drivers just about this whole electronic bus topic. So I think that's a great idea.
Senator Gallivan, if you're listening, this is your official invitation.
Yep.
Come check out our bus
Otherwise,
garage.
I will reach out to him if everyone is okay with
Absolutely.
maybe arranging that,
And he actually will be in district March something. I just saw it today on my calendar because he's going to be using Iroquois to meet with all the superintendents in his district to hear their feedback on schools and the state and what they can do to assist, what he can do to assist us. And so he's more than welcome that day if he wants to come early or stay late. So if you want to reach out to him,
Okay,
you can tell him on that day, he's more than welcome to come early or stay
Okay.
afterwards, and we'll walk him over there.
great.
Anything else for board discussion? All right, then I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for the superintendent report.
All right, so in the superintendent's report, a board member did receive communication from a parent concerned about one library book, and we did look at it, and there were 4-letter words in it to a degree that we thought were inappropriate for the age level. Because of that, getting through the vetting process, the district is looking to review the books in the library to make sure they're all age appropriate. The principal did reach out, talk to the parent. They were very pleased with the actions we were taking. By no means is this, trying to select books or make them less diverse or anything. It's just trying to make sure that they're age appropriate. So, to be clear on that. Last week, we did have a gentleman come in and speak to the board. Ironically, I spoke about that situation right where he spoke about what his son experienced through where a player from another team did hurt him significantly. That was a foul that was very inappropriate. So After the meeting, he spoke with other individuals here, and he seemed very satisfied with the direction the district was taking, and we're followed through on that, and we'll continue to monitor that. Then the other gentleman that spoke last week was the Marilla Town Supervisor, and when he spoke, we really no need to get back. I've been in communication to him. He just wanted to make sure that our board was very clear with what he was talking about with the Marilla Town Board, and I did reach out to him, and I did think he did a very good job being very clear with what he was talking about there, and he responded, thank you, to me on that, so that communication did take place. That is all of any public comments that have come to me, or to the district or to the board. Student cabinet report. Student cabinet yesterday, we had Officer Barry, who's in the high school. He came to the meeting with us, and he talked about the SRO program, what it was, what it entailed, and we asked the kids how familiar were they with it. I was sad to say they weren't as familiar as I wanted them to be, so then we brainstormed with the students how they could become more familiar. I mean, they understood he was here for safety, understood he could talk to, but more into it, more being a personal person they could go to more often for all the different avenues. So he's going to speak with the administrators to get them on some of the norming assemblies so they can do better presentations and really inform the students more of all the different aspects that the school resource officers are there for them.
Looks like I'm going to ask a question about that, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Can you just go back to the town of Marilla?
Yes.
Can you just confirm that we are not accepting the invitation to host an event from the group that he spoke of when he invited?
Yeah, we're not, I don't have any events scheduled with anyone.
He invited the bus to work with them to schedule. Speakers,
There was
and
no
we're not
conversation
taking
on that
Okay.
whatsoever with him.
Yep.
Later on when I'm talking about it, I did have a meeting with the superintendents in the area and state representatives on it, and that's what I'll be talking about. That's the only meeting, and I have reached out to
It was the
Native
specific
American
group that he
Nation.
mentioned that we're.
Yeah, I have not
Thank you.
contacted that group
Thank
at all.
you.
And the other thing Officer Barry talked about was vape sensors, because vaping, for all parents listening, vaping is an issue. It's an issue in Iroquois. I think it's an issue in all school districts. It's becoming very prevalent in society. And you're not allowed to do it at school, but students are doing it in the bathrooms. And so we're moving forward with looking to work with ITAC of securing vape sensors and to have those installed in the bathrooms. So please talk to your children, talk to them about what their friends are doing, and encourage them not to have it here at school. I would encourage them not to have it anywhere, but that's up to your parental choice, but really not at school, because it will end up, if they get caught after a few times, we'll end up in the superintendent's hearing and discipline before that. So please don't have it here at school. Yes. You have to turn your mic on.
How will we inform the parents and the students in advance of those sensors so the kids can start thinking about?
Why do we have to inform them before? They shouldn't do it in school. You put them in there and you get caught. They've been informed, don't bring them to school.
Oh,
They were told with that,
right, okay.
with norming assemblies, it's in the student code of conduct. They shouldn't have them in school now, so that sensor should make absolutely no difference whatsoever, in my opinion, to them, if they're doing the right thing.
And if it does, this is their official notification.
And if it does, this will serve you a notification. Watch the board next time.
Is that going to be in the high school and the middle school?
We're looking to get in all the different buildings, so we're seeing how much money we can actually get. John's working with them too. And then we're going to put them in the areas that we think, with the number we get, hitting the highest areas, which are typically the bathrooms first, locker rooms, and then broaden out from there. Don't have a timeline on it when they're going to be installed, so it could be tomorrow, kids. Think about it. Let your friend try it first, see what happens.
Was wondering, will we post things like I saw like at ITAC that say, are you aware that vaping causes anxiety?
That's done in all the health classes already. The students, I think, are well informed of the dangers of vaping. This is coming from students themselves. They know what they're being told, whether they believe it or not. That's I think, is one of the issues. And I think there's lots of things that young adults hear it's not good for them, but they might do it anyways. We get into that with postings on social media, which they need to be careful there, but they still do inappropriate activities. If there's no more questions there, we'll move into curriculum update with Dr. Dudek.
You may have heard already, we have been lucky enough to start a third UPK program. So it will take our number up to 54 students. We are currently working on a location, and we probably won't know that for a few months once we see our registration numbers kind of stabilize. Then universal pre-K. We're in our second week, or second group of Orton Gillingham training through the Reed Charitable Organization. This is a wonderful organization that was established by a parent, excuse me, because it's a national organization. Their child had difficulty reading, and so they set it up in order to help schools be able to afford to get their teachers trained. So it cuts the cost of the training immensely. Because it is a charitable organization, they use the work of the fellows, and in order to be an Orton Gillingham Fellow, it takes about 7 to 8 years and thousands of hours of training to become a fellow. And so, depending on the fellow schedule, we had one trainer for our first training, but another for this current training. And so there's a little bit of difference in the way they present, but the material is sound. And what's helpful is that I sat through the first one, and I'm sitting through the second one, so I can add to and help the teachers find the materials more efficiently. Our next training will be for the second grade teachers, and that's going to happen at the end of March. And 2 weeks after the training, our TOSAs are being used to support the OG training and also support the teachers in a phonics teacher-friendly program that many of the teachers have asked for, called UFly. It's out of the University of Florida. And so we're helping the teachers. It's pretty well aligned to the OG theory and philosophy, but we're just asking them to try it out because several have come to me to talk about discrepancies that they're finding in our current program, so they asked to try this out. And Friday is our staff day, and we'll all be exhausted afterwards. We have a lot of professional development.
Strategic plan update. So John is moving forward with the facilities committee, and his next step will be not this coming Monday, but next Monday. He will have on the website a spot where community members, parents, staff, students could sign up to be part of the facilities committee that will start meeting. He'll have the dates on there where they can come up with, he'll present to them what the principals have already said, and then come up with other ideas, prioritize them to present to the board at the July district planning conference, and I will put that out in my Monday message. So therefore, everyone will have that. There'll be a link right in there to make it nice and easy for them to go in there. So we are still moving forward with that. And we are going to start to be emailing all the community members that are on our listserv for communication. So now they can sign up for the text messages and emails themselves. So that'll go out and they can even sign up for the different building things. It's already posted on our website. So the new members are already joining. There's already 25 members in there, I've been told. And so therefore, we're going to start posting things doubly in there, especially now with the budget coming in, and we'll slowly transition the people over there and keep pointing them in that direction.
You said that that's on our website?
It's already on our website. So if you actually go to our main web page under announcements where it says communication, I think there's an I there, and you click on it, it takes you right to the new system. The next thing is strategic plan survey. So in the strategic plan, It talks about having surveys and getting the feedback to know how we're doing with progress on the different aspects. As I reported to the board, I did talk to someone at Frozen Junior, and that was on one of the committees, and they said we were doing great. That was a communication committee. They were very pleased with what we're doing, but one person doesn't make a survey. And I know last year, just with COVID and everything, we didn't do a survey. We had used PLC in their survey before, so really, I'm bringing this up to the board because I've also heard, sir, should we still do with PLC or not? And I know some of the questions in there are directly from the survey from PLC. Would you want to go through them again? Would you want to develop our own survey that we put out to the community? Would you want to look for another vendor to produce a vetted survey that they have? And then depending on if you were to pick our own survey, what would be the time of year to do it? Would we want to do it at the same time as the budget vote? Obviously, with the Monday messages and the listserv going out, we can get it out that way. We could put an article in the newspaper. So I'm just looking for feedback with this as an initiative with the board of which way you would like to go with the survey. And if you just want to discuss a little bit and give me an answer next month in March, that's fine too. Just realize March, April, be like May or June before the survey would go out. We'd probably need a couple months to vet it, find vendors and things like that.
Which would mean that we couldn't do it at the budget vote.
We could, I think we could push it for the budget vote. Because if you told me in March, I'd want to present it to the board in April. We have another meeting May before the vote, which you could finalize it, and then we could do it if there's a homemade one. We could still push it out by then. It'd be tight, but we could do it. So I'm looking for the feedback, just because of what I've heard before. I know it's a big question to put out there, so I'm putting it out there. You can kind of have a discussion, think about it, and notice I said you can come back next month after you've had more time to think about it. Not looking for an answer today, just saying, here's something to be considered just based on the feedback from before with the group we were using and concerns of the cost and what we received for what we were paying.
I mean, I would think we would develop our own. I mean, it's our plan at this point. It's our survey. We would probably know the questions that we want to ask more than using a vendor.
I don't think I agree because, and so I'm looking for a middle of the road option, and I may have questions in order to decide.
And that's where maybe we can get them, and I can get you an answer by the next board meeting.
I want to get my questions out because there was a reason that we started with hiring a company way back many moons ago, and that was because we completely felt we could develop our own survey. We completely felt in many ways we already have developed many surveys in different purposes, whether they were generated from the building or the district or the board's exit surveys, and that if this were to truly be a reflective process of us as an educational entity, non-biased, then we needed to put the mirror up in front of all of us through somebody else's kind of lens. Not intentionally, but when we create our own surveys, we often put biases into the things that we're asking or what we value, which are already the things we know we value, and maybe don't include others. So that was why we thought we wanted an outside company. Having said that, the process we went through with PLC, we know was in some places a bumpy path.
Well,
I don't say PLC.
But thinking about that too, I mean, there's two aspects to it. There's the survey aspect, and then there's working on developing the plan.
That's what I was going to say.
So one could be good and the other one not.
Everything that we discussed for months in all the different committees that I was involved in came from those surveys. It's now how many years since we gave the survey? 2 years?
2 years.
Since we gave the survey.
We didn't do one last year.
In order for us to see any progress, knowing all the pieces like COVID and all the other pieces that have gone involved, we put that on when we're looking at it. I think we need the same questions in order to see if there's any change.
Is this that survey, or is this the survey that we put into the plan saying that we're going to put a survey out to evaluate, like on student experience, where we were? Because that's where I was getting confused, because those were,
I thought that it.
Everything was the same survey.
thought
We
that
had a
everything was
student
the same
survey, a
Same
community
survey,
survey.
because then
But
you're
with-
asking the same
within our
questions
action
to see
plan-
if there was a change.
but within our action plans, it was to evaluate, like,
We
student
said
clubs.
the survey, and that was
The
referring
survey
to
was
this
referring to
survey.
the PLC survey.
Okay,
PLC
not the
survey.
ones that we built into the.
No, it was
Okay.
referring to the
Having said that,
PLC,
I don't
and
think we
actually
need
in
PLC.
some of the strategic plans, the exact wording of the survey with like 28%
No, I know
was the
that,
wording
okay.
from PLC.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the ones that we
Yeah,
asked to put in.
no.
Okay.
Can we, this would be my question, can we use their survey? Do we have to have them analyze the data, because that seems like something we could probably do. But if we couldn't, could we have them do the survey, give us the data, and not be consultants with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, Mary Jo? Yes.
Yeah, I thought when we interviewed them,
And I would
that that
assume
was a
that's
part
the
of it, that it
least
would become to a
of-
point where we would just use their survey.
They said whatever follow-up, if it is just a survey, or if we wanted them to come back in, we could have whatever we wanted.
Okay. So my thought would be to use that survey to look for growth, to then, because of the intent at which we started it, I think if we come up with our own survey again, if we come up with our survey again, I mean, the measure of everything was growth. And the only way to show growth is growth over time. And we're not gonna get time, we're gonna start again, and then we're gonna analyze that data, and is that going to shift our priorities?
So the first survey you were saying was our baseline data, so you want to see what the growth was, using the same survey.
That makes the most sense to me. I'm hearing that we don't have to work with them, and it's just, here's the survey, and they give the survey, and
I'm not certain how that would work out, but we could definitely
Yeah.
follow through with some phone calls and see. I know, I'm almost positive they committed, but I'm saying we could reach out and say, how quickly could it be,
Yeah.
put
Well,
out
and
again?
quickly too, I don't think it should be done until the spring. We need to let this full year run, and then that would be something we could advertise May, June, and then have the feedback for the district planning conference.
It'll also be very interesting on certain questions where we sat in those groups and said, we think people responded this way because this is a COVID year.
that'd be interesting.
And we're
I wonder if
not
there's
in
a
the
way
same
to be able to
situation now.
tell, like, where changes were.
I think those
because of
discussions
COVID.
were the good, rich discussions.
Yeah.
like your idea or Doug said, I think said it during the planning conference, that would give us a lot of time to go through that data.
I also feel like there's an element of, if you have PLC giving the survey, it's not us. It's not like, oh, they're watching to see what my answers are. It's completely anonymous, and we just get the data. It's district hands off giving the survey. I think that's important.
So the strategic plan and the engagement with PLC was kind of before I joined the board. So was this like a general survey or a survey?
Yeah, there was a student survey, a staff survey, a parent, a community survey, so each one had a different group. And then on it, there were questions like, do you receive enough communication? Is the communication what you're looking for? I'm saying the communication, then there was ones around experience, and they're all charted, and then there's red, yellow, something green, or.
Did we get a really good response rate the first time around that we did it? Do we recall?
We wanted more. We got a statistically viable response, but we would like more responses.
Would more responses change our comparison?
It means we're doing a better job communicating because more
Well,
people
it was
responded.
I was gonna say, it was one of the goals. That was one of the discussions was, why?
Right.
Is that trust in the school district that I didn't respond? Is that COVID's going on? Is that I didn't know about it because I get communication?
Yeah.
But if we get more people, we would have no. The only other question I would have is, we raised again security issues, and as far as if you put out a survey, there was the thought, are there people taking it multiple times? Now, people were saying,
Yeah.
some people did say they took it multiple times.
And I think with anything,
So-
you're going to get that, but I know that PLC, being the company, has tried to vet it as much as possible, much better than we could do to prevent that.
I'm not confident in that statement, but
I'm saying what they
believe that
said.
you're confident. I believe that they did
Reality is
say
always
that.
different.
I'm not belittling what they said. I mean, I'm not sure I was confident in that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I was.
No, because I think if you go on different, I know there's ways you could probably work around it, doing IP addresses and things like that. So,
I don't know how. I'm just saying that was a fact.
I kind of feel like we don't really have a choice to go to a different vendor because the survey is, I'm sure, their work product.
their work product,
They're not
it's,
going to let us use that survey and have somebody else give it and analyze the data.
No.
So if we want to use the same questions in the same survey to demonstrate the growth or lack of growth, if that is the case, it has to be with PLC.
And we did ask the question, we did ask the question during interviews and multiple times in meetings with them that when districts are not contracting to work with you, and the answer was that there are many districts who give our survey every year as their benchmark
Right.
for data.
I do
But are
remember
working in, the goal is for us to own it ourselves as a living document,
Right.
but to use that as our measurement tool.
correct.
That was their goal, almost like to grow us to that process. So this should be easily facilitated in their basic subscription plan.
I'll work on reaching out to them and I'll report to Doug so that he can
Perfect.
tell everyone.
And then we can talk more
Yeah,
about this next.
I'll ask them about
That's- I mean,
what their timeline
Sharon and
is
Jane
and
talked,
whether or
there's
not
other
they can
board
block
members, I just want to make
IPs.
sure they agree, because that was 2 out of 5. And I noticed how she held the mic away for Bob, you know.
Well,
Grab
since
that
it's
mic,
been a
Bob.
couple years, I'll ask them again, have they done any further work to to improve the repetitiveness, people doing it more than once?
And because that's why we got confused, we did say in some of those subgroups that we were gonna ask, on student experience, or are there enough new clubs that we said, we were gonna put, like, we wanted 75%, we set those goals in there for other surveys that we were supposed to do too.
Yep.
That we haven't followed up on yet.
I think that was this survey.
No, that was a separate one, they were exact questions if you read it. Because we said we want, no, but in each group, remember we broke up into 3 groups?
Yeah, but those questions came from those surveys.
But not like clubs, for example.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The survey is very lengthy.
detailed.
But I thought we put those in there, because we debated over what the percentage was.
Well, we debated what percentage we wanted to get to, I think.
Right,
Right.
and as, like, individual things, we're gonna go
Yeah.
out there.
This may not have come out in the committees, but that was the behind, like, that was how the data was presented, was which questions
Right, yeah,
had the gaps that then led to the discussions, which then led to the steps, so they were very, very closely aligned.
So I believe what you're talking about is the student experience where we
Right.
have the RTI and then we have the clubs.
yeah,
And it may not have been specifically spelled out as a question in the survey, but it was talking
That's what I was talking
about
about.
student experience. And when we were in that committee for student experience, we were the ones that set that 75% goal.
right.
And I think it was a pretender in a separate survey.
It wasn't a specific question in that survey, but it talked about getting students more engaged in the school community. That's where it came out.
I have noticed recently, when I go to, like, the doctor, or take my kids to the doctor, go to the dentist, and, because I don't know if we asked that on the survey at the end, and are we going to make any kind of changes? Like, for instance, I noticed surveys before used to be anonymous, and now they put in there, do you want to be anonymous, or don't you want to be anonymous? Then at the end, they have, put comments in there, and in other words, do you have maybe a suggestion, or do you have a comment, or do you have a concern? And then, do you want us to follow up with you on this certain thing, or is it totally anonymous? Because I've noticed, it seems that sometimes these surveys now from these different providers are changing a little bit to ask for, like, input, or if you need a follow-up on something. are we doing that, or is that totally out of
We
the
can
question?
check with PLC to see if there's anything on there that they've changed in that nation.
Right, we
but-
should, I mean, that
But I
would
think it's all
change.
anonymous.
If the goal was to get people to buy into taking the surveys and to trust that they could express their opinion truly, anonymously, if we have some anonymous and some non-anonymous, and I don't really want you to follow up with me if I write a comment, and who's going to do all that following up? I think we would be opening a can of worms on this specific
Okay,
purpose.
I agree. I just was wondering if that was something that maybe they might be suggesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was in there. I don't believe it was, but we can ask them to see if they've changed anything with that and get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
So then, I guess in thinking of that, something I didn't think of, but if we're going to be working with that survey, do we still want to do an exit survey at the vote? The questions we've been asking, we've been getting very consistent answers on over the years. I do like the feedback from the public, but we will be getting feedback on the PLC survey, so now we're doing 2 surveys. I know some people complain about being over-surveyed. So do you still want to do an exit survey at the poll, or just go with whichever survey we do else? Tough question.
I think some of the questions after the vote were specific to the actual vote.
Yeah.
Like, did they understand the newsletter? Did
Yep.
they understand the propositions and things like that? So I don't think it's a bad idea to do a quick,
Okay.
but that's
We'll
just,
have another one for you guys to
but
look.
I mean, I don't know what's everyone else's thoughts.
People want to take it, they'll take it. If they don't, they won't.
They don't.
And
Yeah.
it is short.
Make it brief, yeah.
Somebody can take that in, just a couple of minutes, so.
It's always interesting after, because we've spent a long time, over time, analyzing those, but the ones that we analyze are the open-ended things, not
Yeah.
really the specific. I mean, I think that the people, when it's open-ended, they just want an opportunity to give their input and know that it's read, and it really is read.
Yeah, it's read, it's gone over, and I think that's a good aspect.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure board was comfortable. So for the March meeting, we'll have a survey. If you have any, I always try to come up with a really, what's the burning question? So if you have any really, what's the burning question, email it to me, because I don't have one right now I'm trying to think of.
I'd like to see what our district residents think about the electric buses.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, if we're gonna go to Albany and talk to our legislators about it, I'd kind of like to know that what I'm saying is what my community really thinks.
Good point. So if you have something else, email me, and then if I get more than one, we can discuss if we're in both of them, all of them, or one of them.
I mean, if the state is gonna mandate that we have electric buses by a certain time period, the thing is that as soon as we start trying to buy buses, we've got to put that up, for a vote. What if our community doesn't want electric buses and they vote no? Then what do we do?
Or if they all want them and they're going to vote yes overwhelmingly.
Yeah, like maybe I'm marching around saying, hey, these are really expensive. They, a regular bus is like $150,000 and electric is $400,000. If the taxpayers are like, that's okay, we don't mind.
Or they might say we know nothing about it.
Yeah, or they
And then
might
we have
say
to
we don't
do
know
some
about it.
information
And then that tells us that we're not doing a good enough job letting them know what's going on at the
Yeah.
state level. So I would like to see a question about that on there.
Okay.
I mean, people might think it's a great idea, but how much more information will we give them? Are we gonna say, because what you
Well,
just
let me
said?
work on the question, and then you can always say it, because we won't put a whole book for them to teach everything about electric buses, but it could be, do you have enough information to answer this question, yes or no? If yes, please provide your feedback. If no, then we see the number of no's, and that's significant. On Monday messages, I could be putting out messages or information.
I guess my comment was just that, we're asking on something that may be a mandate, which we don't get a choice on things that are mandates.
Correct.
So we're asking to give us information to help us to advocate, which is something that is a mandate as of right now. So I'm not sure that that's a good idea. That was my thought. The other thought was, what new information do we have to give them? And it looks like we're looking to do it. It may give the impression we're looking to do this right now. We know that we have a deadline, and we have to look at infrastructure. But if you ask me a question on that, and I have my ballot in my hand, and I have a survey in my hand that's talking about electric buses, and I don't like electric buses, are you affecting a vote? That was my thought. You're putting up what is already a politically laden topic right out there in a survey during a budget vote may not be our best and timeliest way to get public input. Although public input is very important, we could say, for example, New York State has set this mandate for this year that schools will have this. What questions do you have as a community resident, knowing that mandate is expected in New York State this day? That's not we, or what's your general thought about them. You're gonna get more targeted responses. I didn't say I disagree, I know I did say that I didn't mean, I meant,
I understand.
I'm thinking of all the things that may happen.
We'll keep thinking of other ideas, and, maybe I'll come up with one between now and then, and that one won't even be on, because we'll have a better one. Or maybe not. Or maybe we'll decide not to put it on at all.
Because you said what hot topic is there,
That's a hot topic. Yeah, I was thinking of that. What question would you like more information on? How's that better? Not hot topic. What question would you like to ask to get more information on? So you can send me those. New York State executive budget's out for schools. John, did you want to mention a little bit about that?
Yes, I do. At the last budget meeting, I did a presentation, and at the last board meeting, I did a presentation, and I talked about state aid, and I said if there's any updates by the next board meeting, I'll give you an update. So we do have an executive budget proposal at this point from the governor. And the headlines are kind of saying right now that it's a record increase in state education. It's $3.1 billion. It's a record increase. That's true, but most of that is because of a lawsuit that the state was involved in where they weren't correctly funding the foundation aid formula. So as a result of that settlement that they have to pay districts that were not fully funded. So make up a lot of payments to people. So that's why the school funding is so high this year. In our case, in Iroquois, we are not getting that increase in funding that we were hoping for. We're getting a minimum increase of 3% on foundation aid. So that follows 5 or 6 years where we've been at 3% or lower. There's been years that we had 0, we had under 1% one year. So it's 5 or 6 years of under 3%, or at 3%. So it's not real helpful for us. That is the governor's proposal at this point. So now the two houses have to come up with their proposals, usually in March, and then there's a settlement somewhere along the line, and hopefully by April 1st they have a new budget, and we'll find out if anything's changed with our funding. But right now, that's the update, 3% on our foundation aid. That's it.
Okay. Recognitions. You covered ITAC already, the group going there. The junior class raised $140 for local animal shelters, collected over 100 pet supply items. So thank you to Iroquois for the donations, and congratulations to the students for doing an excellent job with that. I'd like to thank our transportation supervisor, Eric Nagel, because he actually, one of the buses, a bus driver got sick in New York City on track and field trip out there, a competition, and so on Sunday he got in his car and drove across the state to get the bus back here in time for the seniors on that trip to make the senior trip. So he did that all on his own. In fact, by the time I was talking to him, I said, well, maybe I could, I'm headed that way, I could help you out, get you there. Yeah, I'm already on my way, Doug. Yeah, I'm gone. So he phenomenal of him going and doing that, and greatly appreciate it. Just really shows how great the transportation department is, so thank you to him. The high school custodial staff was given a huge thank you from the students of the Key Club. They did thank you notes and for all the work they're doing with all the snow and during that time, so I really appreciate the students doing this to show their appreciation, because that's really a way of giving back and thankful. The Marilla students were making Valentines for vets, so congratulations to them. We already talked about middle school Frozen. 3 high school students will be performing in the Buffalo PPO. BPO, get the letters right. Disney trip was a success. So congratulations for another great trip, and I think that's actually the one for next year is in our agenda. And thank you for Mrs. Muskoff for taking them there. The high school business class raised $200 for the Oshai Children's Hospital selling cookie jars, so thank you to them. High school athletes, I did have a Brendan for Iroquois first team cross country. I don't remember if I announced that one before. I do have for high school fall sports also girls volleyball. It looks like Kayla for Iroquois. She made all ECIC. Congratulations to Michaela for her outstanding performance in the first ever New York State Girls Wrestling Invitational. She was in the 152 weight class, and she placed, this first kind of ever event, and she placed third. So congratulations, having wrestled, that's a great accomplishment. She beat the girl that beat her the first round. That's why she could only get third, right?
Placed third by beating the girl that beat her.
Yeah, so she could have possibly taken the whole thing, just depending on that first match. So great with that. That's what I have for recognitions. What I have, last report is on New York State Education Department Indigenous Native American mascot regulations. I have reached out to Native Americans and I'm waiting to hear back from them. But I did attend a meeting, it was actually yesterday, and on it was state representatives and other superintendents in our area that have imagery or mascots or something that have Native American, Indigenous Native American reference. We talked about the timing and of their regulation coming out, because right now it's in public notice. They said they don't believe that there are going to be any major changes. Originally they were saying it's going to be done in May. Now they're saying it'll either be adopted in late April or early May. Just depends on when they're having their meetings, but they have to hit the requirement days of public comment. In talking to them or in listening to them, you know, their goal is to stop how Native Americans have been characterized and the stereotypes of it. We talked about costs of the district and where the state was going to help and do any of that, and they said no. The only thing you could possibly get if it's part of a project for capital aid, other than that, it's up to the district. They were really clear with that. We talked about the timeline, if we do move forward with changing it. And with that, they said there has to be a resolution by the end of this year. I outlined possible ideas for how I would do it, and they said that would be fine. Now, please don't say I'm moving forward with it. It's just I was going over different ideas if we go down that path, because I have reached out to Native Americans. I did also ask a question because I know for Native Americans, animals and some of their beliefs have different characteristics or held in reverence, and they said no, animals were okay. So that was something I had expressed concerns about, because clans have different names, and they said no, any animal would be okay with that. It's more feathers, arrowheads, tomahawks, things like that they're talking about. Chiefs has a reference to it. We talked a lot about the word warrior. That was a big concern, because you can say, well, there's other types of warriors, and they said, well, no, because of how it was developed, that warrior was developed in those school districts because of Native Americans, not because of any other aspect of it. So really, you know, once the regulation is adopted, if you don't have an agreement in place with Native Americans, you do have to change it. They said their intent really was for agreements already in place. That's not how it reads in the regulation, which is why I've reached out. You know, and so we'll see what happens, but that's really the feedback I have now. The biggest news, I'm glad to say, is if we do have to change it with the animals, it opens the field significantly, because I personally had concerns of what would be the feedback from the state. And they say they don't want to be the monitors of this. They don't want to be helping us try to change or do anything. That's really up to us, and just be very careful of those different aspects of anything developed from Native America.
So,
Go ahead, Louise.
I was just, if you've reached out to the area Native Americans?
Yes.
Tribes and
Nations.
nations and have not been, due to different factors, have not gotten any type of response or set up a
One
meeting
person
yet?
did respond. They talked to him on the phone. He explained that he had other things going on and would get back to me later, but nothing quick. The other ones I've not heard back from.
So, so we have to have some type of a plan by the end of the school year, which is what, June
June 30th.
June 30th. And if these nations don't get back with us, then we just have to follow what the state said.
Follow what
and-
the state's mandated, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you just mention that that the state did share what they had already done with meeting with Native Americans? I thought you had.
Oh, sorry, good point. I mentioned
Yeah,
to Sharon
it was-
earlier that I had talked to this group, and I did ask them, because they had said in previous meetings with the state, they had said they had talked to Native Americans and they talked to the Mohawks, and I'm like, well, if you talk to one group, there's a lot more than that. And this one I really clarified. I said, they said they had talked to Native Americans, and I said, well, when you say that, what does that mean? What does that specifically mean? And they said they talked to all 9 nations. And so I thought that was important to know that they weren't just talking to one group. They said they talked to all 9 nations. We're all part of this. So I think that's very important to know.
Was there any discussion about the name Iroquois? Was there any confirmation that name can stay?
I did not bring that up specifically because the one person that was on the meeting, I had asked that person directly to them, and they said Iroquois is not it. It's chiefs and the Native American male figurehead.
Did they finalize the list of districts that were impacted, or not yet? I'm saying this on
That
behalf
has
of
not
Chuck.
been anything that's been published or I have seen yet.
Yeah, okay.
And they still have a committee they're putting together to help define what different words mean, but it's not to help us get it. It's if we have questions of what different words or links would be.
So what's the likelihood that we're actually going to have a meeting with?
I don't know, because I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah.
I had their midwinter ceremonies. They have different things going on,
Okay.
and they're all very respectful groups. So I don't
we're
want to
still hopeful.
presuppose of anything,
Okay.
because I don't think that would be respectful.
Okay.
They're their nations, and they are going to act how they're going to act in what they think is appropriate for them, and I applaud them in acting what's appropriate for them.
Just one question. I think you answered this before, but I wanted to be sure. Do we have that in writing, that we don't have to change the name Iroquois, just to be safe?
I do not have that in writing. I just have it from the person in charge, and in the regulation and memo, it only refers to the logos and the mascots. It does not refer to the name of districts.
So do we send a confirming letter?
I can follow up with that. I can
Just to
work
be
with the
safe.
DS, but I'd like to see where we end up and when the regulations pass, and I'll just get something to confirm that at that time.
Good, thank you.
At what point, is there a date that you have in your head that if we have not been able to have a meeting with our Native American nations that, in our area, that we will have to move forward without having spoken to them? Is there a date for?
I would think if we were sitting at our April board meeting, I would have significant concerns at that point.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions, that's all I have.
Okay. That brings us to item 8, recognition of guests. We do have one guest that would like to be recognized. It is Kathy Berger. So if you'd like to come up and.
Sure, but we'll have to get a mic to you so the people at home can hear you.
You know me, do I need a mic?
Don't worry, we know how to turn them off, too.
Yeah, oh boy. Okay, I am a parent, taxpayer, alumni of Iroquois, and I do have a deep concern about our cancel culture with this Iroquois thing. I really would like, if the board could, or if they could give direction for what the district residents who are, feel very strongly about this could do. Can we get some of our Native American people here to discuss this? We kind of, what I'm getting from a lot of what's gone on tonight is all our directives are coming from Albany. And a lot of what I heard tonight was, well, excuse me, our buses are getting thrown at us. Has anybody really thought it out? I heard a mention a few times. Well, it wasn't very well thought out, but here's what we got to do. How can we stop this as a school district? Electric buses, changing what we've known from the time Iroquois has started. The Iroquois, the chiefs, it's meant to be honorable and respectful. It was never meant to be disrespectful. When did it turn into something else, and who turned it into it? Was it the Native Americans, or is it our cancel culture? So I really, am here to say I do speak, and I know I speak for a lot of alumni. I've raised a lot of those alumni. And I just would like to, help out in any way and really have it be recognized that there's a lot of people and a lot of history that goes along with the chiefs. And once a chief, always a chief, How do you find that disrespectful? So, I'm sure you've heard from residents, but here I am, and I can speak. If you need numbers, I'll give you numbers. And also, I would personally like to see documentation. I would like to see documentation from Albany about who was spoken to, when they were spoken to, what exactly the dialogue was, as opposed to this, well, we had a chit-chat. Let's, and you probably have done that, Doug, but I'm just saying, we haven't seen it, so maybe that would be something that could go into the Elmer Review or out in a district newsletter, because not everybody gets the Elmer Review either. Just so that there's communication there, that we know that we've done everything that we can do to keep our logo. It means a lot. So thank you very much, and thank you all for all your time that you put in. Believe me, I know it's a thankless job at times, but thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Berger.
Thank you.
That was the only person who asked to be recognized. So that moves us to our regarding agenda items. Do we have any discussion on agenda items 11.01 through 23.10?
John was going to say something about the tuitioning, why it's in here for approval.
Yes, item 23.09, non-resident tuition rates. Just a reminder, this is not for non-residents, anyone outside of our district to come to our school and attend our school. That we don't allow that. This is used for typically foster students who are placed in our district, and we can bill back the home district for their education costs. So that's what we use these for, just so you know.
I actually have an item I'd like to take a look at, because we are looking at our Board of Education meeting dates, and I see that February 14th is on the calendar, and I'm guessing that that is going to be when the Capitol Conference is. And I don't want to have to drive like a crazy person to get here. Is there any possibility that we could move our February date to a Monday, so that we're just, we take it off the table and not have to worry about. I would think the following Monday would be President's Day, right?
That's what I'm checking.
Or can we
Whoops,
at least be amenable to the idea of
out.
when we know?
Yeah.
Is that on?
Yeah, the 19th. Well,
Sure,
I'm sorry.
I love you. Okay.
What did you say? I was looking at my phone. Might as well spend Valentine's Day with the board too. The 19th is the President's Day. And actually, I want to go look quick while we're talking about the calendar for break. So Was it? So so the 12th would be,
The 12th would be fine. I mean, open. Yeah, just to make it so that we're not doing the same thing we did tonight. That was hard, folks. Plus, we tend to like to have our roundtables with the faculty before that February meeting, and I feel really bad that I wasn't there for that. Like, I feel like I missed something today with our own faculty. So, and I don't want the faculty to think that they're not just as important as what we were doing in Albany. Like, we need to have, we need to have our board members at the roundtable. So it would be a little easier if we didn't, like,
everyone okay
stack-
moving it to the 12th, Monday? Monday.
Monday.
We tried to space them out so they're like 4 weeks apart from each other.
Now watch Nisbet changes it and they make it a Monday event.
Well, if we know ahead of time, we could always change it.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Any other discussion? Yes. Okay. So I have, yes, yeah, we do.
I'll work
We do.
through it. So we need,
I need a motion to amend our agenda to
Correct.
Reflect change in the February board meeting date to February 12th. All in favor?
here we go.
Opposed? Nobody's abstaining, okay.
No one's abstaining.
All right. Any other discussions? All right, then can I have a motion is there a request to withdraw any items from the agenda? No. Is there a request to add any specific items to the agenda? Okay, then can I have a motion to approve our consensus agenda items 11.01 through 23.10 with our change? I'm gonna give it to her this time. All right. All in favor? And that motion carries. That brings me to we should say thank you to the people who made donations too. I'm just realizing we have quite a few of them from Shutterfly and Tops Markets and Equitable Foundations. There's a lot of money here that was donated this month, and so thank you to all those organizations that continue to support our school district. And then that brings us to 24, a recognition of guests that for any items not on the agenda.
Don't have any.
Don't have any. Do we need an executive session? We are done then. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? You? Second? Perfect. And then, all in favor? We're not discussing whether it. I know, I mistook too.
We should have
All
a
in
discussion
favor?
that he's not here, just so he's upset.
Thank you, everyone coming to attend and everyone virtually attending.
Okay.